नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि अचिंत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स का बुक क्लब। टुडे हमारा एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सा बुक है। अब्बास सर हमारे साथ में हैं, who's written, I mean, some very interesting stories, actually not stories, if I may, history about various different things, including Babur. That was one book I really enjoyed, and the next one I read right now, which is a thick book. It's a big fat book. It really helped me during my travel. Is Hitler. ठीक है, and the title that sir is given is the proclaimed messiah of the Palestinian cause. A lot of people say यार ये क्या बात कर रहे हो, ये तो बड़ा उल्टा ही पड़ गया. So पहले तो sir welcome, thank you so much for your time, and I am looking forward because this was a very detailed account of जो history है उस region की. The account is very detailed from right from the starting of the Jewish, the history of the Jewish people, the place and everything like that. So the history is very detailed, and you've connected to the Second World War. To my mind,
Yes,
the Second World War is the point of start of the new world order, जो मतलब the current world order, right?
yes.
And events between 1935 and 1945 changed the world. So how did you pick up this particular subject, sir?
So see, and it was just, I would say, it was a coincidence. Most of the things that is what happens to us non-professional historians, as commonly this parallels goes through. Whenever we will come up with a book, someone will say that they are non-professional historians. So I like to be called a non-professional historian, and I'm proud of it because it does not bind me to certain way that you have to write history in this way or you have to do only this, and there is no bounds whatsoever. I'm not obliged to anybody. So it was 5 years 6 years back. Imran Khan had posted a tweet. That time it was Twitter and now it's known as X. And that post was about blaming Hindu nationalism. Actually, he was taking a dig on the current government in 2019 and said that this is a neo-Nazi political fraction, Hindutva fraction, which is neo-Nazi, and they have got association with the fascist, the Nazis, and they are going to do exactly the same to the Muslims what the Hitler did to the Jews. So that was a narrative, and I am very skeptic. I don't take anything by the face value. So I thought that maybe that this is the right time to start to look into the documents. And of course, like any common person, I also began by reading the op-eds जो भी circulate होता है, and the op-eds initially, of course, it started with the moment you do a Google search. Now the things have changed a bit because of current Israel Palestine war, but back then wherever you will search about Nazi political connections, you will find Hindutva coming in the Google search in the first things. So there will be articles from Wire, there will be articles from Scroll, there will be articles from BBC even, which will connect the Hindutva fraction to the Nazis. But somehow I got hold of an article which was about the jihadis of Hitler, and that got me fascinated. That oh, this is something very interesting because Islamists are blaming the fraction of Hindutva that you are Nazis, and here I'm finding something very interesting that the jihadis of Hitler, and that's when the journey began. And journey was not to be limited to the op-ed because I like to go to the sources, and the people who have read my book would know that the book had already become so thick that there was no much space to put on the notes bibliography. So we have done a QR code kind of a concept, and a website has been given. On my website people will find another 350 pages which are bibliography, the notes,
Hmm.
and of course some important facts. The three facts which are there about: one is Islamofascism has been
Hmm.
defined, one is about Zionism, what exactly it means, and one is about Palestine, what the term Palestine means. So these are three things have gone there, and but I went into the archive. So there were unique archival documents summing to more than 1,000, and they all taken from the Israel. and UK around the world war. A lot taken from Germany, so I had to take help from my friends who know the German, who studied there and working there. So they were of great help to me in translating a lot of documents. And the narrative which came out was very surprising. It changed the situation diametrically opposite. It was exactly opposite of what I was thinking, because of course there was a leader Munje, the leader went ahead and met the fascist faction, but they never replicated exactly what they were doing, and they never saw Hitler as godly person. But here was a fraction, the Islamists of Arabia, who were looking to see Hitler no less than prophet, which is a kufr. You can't have another prophet. Like prophet is a seal of Islam. So that's how book happened, and I thought that it can. Many people would think that it was just a reaction after October 7, but that was not the case. Before October 7, just after October 7, I wrote the introduction, so people will, or say prologue, so people will find some relation with October 7 in the prologue. Otherwise, everything was written before that, and so that's how the book happened. And I believe that if anyone wants to understand exactly that what's happening in Middle East, what is the kernel of it, or what where the seed germinated from, so it can be a good text to pick. I lost you, Adi. Your voice is.
As I told you, I'd made some notes, sir, and
Yes.
I'm just gonna, try and ask you the context, because putting the story in a half an hour, 45-minute conversation doesn't really work.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
I wrote it as a siren for the world sleepwalking towards the furnace of Islamofascism, a plague that spreads not with whispers but with war cries. So, you described the book as a siren itself, right? And is this, do you want to kind of keep it as a historical inquiry, or you want to keep it as uh, a sharp moral urgency requirement with a historical context? How do you want to kind of put this across?
So this is siren was a very appropriate term, because siren is what we always hear. It's very related to situation in Israel, because it keeps on facing bombardment, and that's where. So one was that way. When I use a lot of metaphor, I am very fond of metaphorical language. So that's where it came. Second was that we are always in a situation of urgency, because uh, we are not realizing that what's happening, as in jihad is at our doorstep, which people don't realize, and it's in the corporate sector. It's not visible to us. It's very, one can say that it's invisible, so it does not comes glaring into your eye, and because it's not coming right in your eye, so you lose the battle right there, because you don't know, because most of us are so occupied with our corporate life, we are so occupied with, in general, business, profession, etc. We don't even bother to understand that if there is something which is underlying within these cities. Say that I live in Bangalore, and in Bangalore also there are many such fractions where if you pass through, you can get a feel that something is wrong, but you can always close your eyes. Now suddenly after October 7, people woke up. I know a lot of people who were committed secularists. They just transformed entirely that यहाँ तो कुछ गड़बड़ है. But imagine that October 7 wouldn't have happened. So even if the 10% of the people who have now agreed that there is a jihad is walking to the doorstep, many people wouldn't have known. And in India especially, we know that there's a large fraction which is least bothered about what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Israel. So I thought that maybe this book can give them some light, right from starting, that whether Israel has a right to exist or not, which I build a case through historicity of it.
Mm.
uh, I built a case that the Jews were the original inhabitants of the place, and they were thrown out, and they are the rightful owner of the land. And also, we need to understand that there were some alliances which happened in World War II. Like you said, that it's what started the new world order, or the world order where we sit right now.
Yeah.
Today, a lot of people are unable to connect with Palestine, and or rather they have a lot of sympathy for the Palestine, because they are not at all aware that was happening in 1940s. And because these Palestinian leaders were not tried for the war crime, though the Nazis were tried. Had that happened, the situation would have been very different.
Very different. There's no question, sir. That is that there's no question. You know, I'd like to take this now. You know, when you say that the myth crumbles, Hitler, the proclaimed messiah of the Palestinian cause, a colossal undertaking, 700 words, 2 lakh words, 2 lakh, 700 pages, 2 lakh words, plus you're saying another 300. Now,
Yes.
you've got over 1,000 sources, sir. How do you ensure consistency and verification with this? This is a very well sourced book. I mean, I must say, guys, you must. I just, okay, I'm just going to keep this book and I'll open a random page. And that's what I'm kind of trying to show you. Yeah. On this page, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 references. This is page number 260. I'm keeping it in front of you. There's 16 references in a flat front 2 pages. So how do you do that, sir? Because at the end of it, when you do source triangulation, um, um, how do you kind of keep your key source versus the 1,000 that you see around?
And this is a constant battle which we come across whenever we deal with history. And when I say history, even say an instance which happened say a month ago, like even for Operation Sindhu which occurred, there was a lot of triangulation which experts did. You would have come across a lot. You have done the shows around it. So it becomes there were a lot of rumors which were running around. There was a lot of text messages are floating around through WhatsApp and whatnot. But we are somehow safe in a safe zone when we are dealing with the archives of say 1940s and 1950s. The reason being that uh, when we open the archives, say you're opening a German archive, and in German archives are largely about the trials. Say the Himmler is saying something in the court. So when he is testifying something in the court, and then there have been cross examination, so it's almost like a courtroom drama which you see in the sources. So it becomes almost very tough to believe even that would go wrong. There is a very less chances that they would be wrong because it was a war trial which was happening. It was not even say, for example, I deal a lot with the medieval Indian history, but there's a chance that you may derail because the Muslim historians had this knack of exaggerating the situation. Say that there are 1,000 people, then they will say that they came in a number of 10,000 and whatnot. They will just magnify it because they want to show the case of a jihad. In the contrast, when these war trials come up, they're a very good document for the truth. So you are not so much in the problem to triangulate because the sources speak for themselves. And one case was there which needed a lot of verification, and which I would still call is more of a 50% my opinion and 50% is a truth. It is, I'll just give one example so that people can understand. In 2015, Netanyahu had made a claim, and that claim was that it's a Palestinian who pushed Hitler for the
Mm,
Holocaust.
mm,
And he said it a day before he was to fly to Germany. And the German state came ahead and denounced the statement of Netanyahu and said that no, this is very unfortunate. We take the responsibility. Why are you saying the poor Palestinians have done this? Palestinians had no role to play. And there was a whole, and again, we have to relate it to exactly when the war trial was happening. Now, the Palestinian leaders are not tried in the as a war prisoners, war criminals. Though the Nazis are tried, it was very obvious thing that there was a sympathy for Muslims. It was very clear there was an appeasement. That's why they were not tried. And when also this German government statement came, it was more driven by appeasement, I would say. And there were a lot of Israeli historians also who went ahead and said that nahi aisa ho nahi sakta. Now, so for me, it was important to verify the sources because there's source which says yes, there are sources which opinions which says no, and the opinions are of very serious Holocaust researchers, very serious, like who today are also on the side of Israel. They're not on the side of Palestine. They had also denounced the statement of Netanyahu, so it became a very tough thing to find out what the reality is. So what I did first, I took out the affidavits. There are three affidavits which I have put in the book. One appears in the appendix, two of them are partially quoted in the main text of the book. Now, those are the affidavits of the Nazi soldiers themselves who are claiming that Mufti was involved in the planning of the final the final solution. This is what they say, and he's meeting Himmler constantly. Now, the opposition, the people who oppose this notion, they quote the meeting between Hitler and Mufti, which happened in 1941 in Berlin. And there's a very famous photograph which appears Mufti meeting Hitler, and the handshake happens. So we have minutes of meeting also recorded. So they put the minutes of meeting. They say that where is Mufti talking about it? There is no such record. So now, in such meeting, people don't talk about genocide, and they will not talk to the bosses, as in top. If he has to conspire, he will talk to Himmler, Eichmann, other people who are the executives. He will not talk to the bosses directly. And then I came across various situations where I found that Mufti was asking Europeans to send the Jews to Poland, where the concentration camps are existing. That means that he was already aware that Holocaust is happening, and a concentration camp uh, is exists there where the people are put to death. And he pushed the children, women, and everybody, despite that he was not tried as a war criminal. In 1944, when Nazis were almost in a very bad shape, like the things have begun to change for them, it's thrice with Mufti request the Nazi Air Force, the Lufthansa Air Force, to uh, do bombing of Tel Aviv thrice, and Nazi denied that it's not pragmatic to do it. So it tells you that Mufti was too enthusiastic to kill the Jews, while the Nazis were pragmatic like a modern army. Like they were the war machines. They were very dangerous. Like when one looks at the World War II, it was just that USSR changed the whole thing for the Nazis. Otherwise, things were
Mm.
not so simple. So despite that they are pragmatic, they're taking pragmatic call, but this man is so much into the idea that I have to kill the Jews. So these are the circumstantial evidences which I have quoted multiple times, which gives you a case that certainly this man was very much involved in the Holocaust. If he was not the initiator, he certainly was one of the many architects.
Mm.
So these are the triangulations which we need to come across when we deal with such problems.
There's also another thing with Hitler. Na? He said that he had praised the Islam's promise of wars,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
this is a very interesting claim. How do you kind of when did he say this? How did he say this? And did he use this in any way? So?
Yes, yes. So there is a very famous work called the Table Talks of Hitler.
Mm.
So he would talk about the philosophy, and this is the thing with all the big people. Everyone likes to be philosopher, like they will talk philosophy. It can be anybody, whether it's Khomeini or even great leaders, the good leaders too. Everyone likes to talk philosophy. And there was a time when Hitler would sit on the table across with the people, and he will just blabber about religions. He will give his opinion that what he thinks about them. So it's on one of the table talk where he makes a point that Christianity has made us weak. Now, there's a very strong opinion in India, especially because of the Nazi symbol, hook and cruise, and the swastika. Because the hook and cruise is a tilted thing, and swastika is a straight thing. Now, what happens that in the argument from our side generally comes that he was very Christian, and his movement was very Christian. Now, Hitler called his movement Christian for sure. There is no doubt about it. But he said that the Christianity, what we are practicing, as in the Germans, it is a false Christianity propagated by the Jews, the Jewish propaganda, where they made a blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus Christ into somebody else. According to Hitler, Jesus Christ was a blonde hair, blue eyed boy. He was a very Germanic by the looks, and everything was very Aryan. Again, because that was a trend of a time to become Aryan, and Aryan means the purest of the race. And he was trying to make Christianity a different sect altogether. That's why he began a thing called positive Christianity,
Yeah.
where he said that I will make it very positive. So his Christianity was relatively different. Of course, Vatican. supported to some extent the Nazis. There is no doubt about it. But he had a very different role model for Christianity. Now, he said that the old Christianity is making the Germans weak because you don't have reward after the battle. In Islam, there is reward. You get hoods when you go, when you are killed. Then there is an afterlife, and you get the hoods, you get the rivers of the wine and whatnot. So this is what is going to excite the soldiers. This is a religion of a men. He called it man religion, as in the religion of the men, and religion of the soldier, i.e., religion of the soldiers. So, according to him, had Islam conquered Europe, Europe would have been in a much better position, and it would have been never been the weaker one. So he says that in World War One, the things were not so rosy for us because of the Christianity. He goes on to say it, and there are many instances which I've quoted in the book where he's in all praise for Islam. In fact, he goes on to expunge a page from the main camp, where main camp where he it's the polemics against the Arabs and the Muslims. In the Arabic version, those pages are expunged. So no one can imagine that such a strong-headed person like Hitler will remove his word in the quest to appease somebody or to please someone. This is what he did.
That's interesting. On the Mufti, in one of his commentary is that in one of his memoirs, Husseini boastfully claimed that he supported the Nazis because I was persuaded and still am. If Germany had carried out the day of no trace Zionists, we would have remained in Palestine. If Germany had carried the day, Zionists wouldn't have been in Palestine.
Yes,
Now, this is pretty powerful, right? And इसके पीछे तो काफी evidence भी है. There's a lot which is being spoken about in the modern day today.
yes,
Uh, as you mentioned about Netanyahu also taking it up, and there was a huge tamasha that was done during that time as well when this thing was brought out. Now, how do you interpret this statement in terms of agency, ideological conviction, opportunistic rationalization, and of course probably a boast?
yes. See, both these figure or personalities, as far as the Grand Mufti is concerned, and Hitler, they both were very strong-headed people, and they were just not driven by the pragmatism of the battle, so that you would choose the political arrive based on that. They were very strong at the ideology too, and there's a very strong reason to it. We can say anything about Hitler, but he had a very tough life also when he began his life, and he did not get admission. Had he become a painter, perhaps things would have been better for the world, but he could never be one of them. And later on, after the World War One, also things were not so good for him, and suddenly he gets a rise, and the things began to happen good. This man was ideologically very convinced that the Jews are the reason behind the problems in the Europe. And so was the case with Mufti too, because Mufti was somebody who drew a lot of ideas from Quran, from Hadith, though he was very less of a scholar. And in fact, he was not even qualified enough to be a Mufti because he did not even finish his education in Islam. And British appointed him, and because they thought that he would be one of those liberals who will support their cause. And coincidentally, a new title was created, which was called Grand Mufti. Mufti is there, that's fine. Now there's a Grand Mufti. It was created by British themselves, and that was also created by a Jewish officer, Jewish British officer, and he thought that Grand Mufti is going to be a great ally. But there was a conviction in the mind of both these both gentlemen, as in they were completely against the Jews, and they wanted their annihilation. And when I say that they wanted their annihilation, it is not very political convenience or opportunism. They are very clear about it because before Hitler or the Nazis met the Islamists, say the Grand Mufti and his allies and the comrade and etc., Germany was still doing a lot of anti-Jewish acts, and they were so particular about anti-Jewish that their office was not known as anti-Semitic office, but it was known as anti-Jewish. Today, also in our parlance, we use anti-Semitic, but that is where even Arabs become part of it because it's based on the language, etc. They called it anti-Jewish. Now, Grand Mufti is also very anti-Jewish because, according to the Hadith, the judgment day won't come until unless you pick the battle with the Jews. And on the final day of the judgment, even behind the trees that the Jews hide, they will call out and say that here is a Yahudi, come and kill them. So, and every Muslim, I'm very clear about it because anyone who believes in the Quran is a Muslim, and who does not believe even a part of a Quran is not Muslim. I'm going to the by the principle of it, irrespective of who calls what to themselves. Now, if you believe in that principle, it means that you have to pick the battle with the Jews. There is no other way out. And this is what exactly Grand Mufti was able to leverage upon when he got a lot of support from the
Mm.
people. And at the same time, for the Hitler, it looked like this is a religion which comes with complete solution for the Yahudis. Christianity does not provide the complete solution. So uh, there was a great collaboration which could happen. And later on, the Arabs went on to see Hitler as second prophet also, which is way beyond the imagination of a lot of Muslims of today, because they would say that, oh, it is, you're talking a fictitious thing because there's nothing above the Prophet Muhammad. But it did happen. It did occur. So both of them complemented each other very well, not just by opportunity, but also by ideological point of view. And yes, as I was picking the example of 1944-45, when Mufti insisted the Air Force of Germany to bomb Tel Aviv. So he, according to him, Germany really was not very strong. Germany was not very determined. In fact, according to Mufti, they were less bothered about killing the Jews than he was.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to read this. That's why I was opening it out. You've written a letter from a Palestinian sheikh whose words were laced with devotion. May God preserve you. Every day I bring to my prayers for you, God. The news of your highness's patriotism spreads in the best fragrances in the whole world. I am ready at any time to serve at your regime with 100 soldiers on horseback. I am waiting your highness's signal. May you always remain my lord. Such voices, the Arab youth of Palestine respectfully ask only Führer of Germany to prevent the sale of German Colonel School and its land to the Jews so that this sale does not contribute to the Jewification of the Holy Land. And then a little while later, you write, the only man standing tall in Germany. Germany must be proud of his Führer, and Iraq offers Germany its most cordial congratulations and salutes the German nation and its Führer. Now, this is basically religious framing, right? And this is putting the propaganda out, if I may. Now, how is there any current discussion on this within the Islamic world, sir?
So Islamic world is very
I'm
clear
sorry
about
I'm
it.
quoting these things because I mean, these particular lines were pretty strong, so that's why I kind of read it
Yes,
out.
yes, and I'm glad that you read it because people are not even aware of that something like that was happening. Because see, the one thing is that whether people read my book or not. Second thing is that whether they know about it or not. It's very important because until and unless people know the fact underlying there, what was there before all these things happened, for most of the people this happened or began only in 1947 and 48, but there was a lot happening before that, and a lot of congratulatory messages were sent to Hitler. And of course, main camp sells well in India too, and we don't know about demographics, that who is purchasing, etc. In fact, I do have a copy of main camp too because I want to know that what exactly had happened. It can be because of the academic interest too. But the country which sold the main camp the most, it was Turkey. It became the bestseller there immediately after it got translated. And still, when you talk to the people, you can find a lot of videos of the people praising Hitler. And our own Pakistan movement, when I say our own, as in because it originated in India, so there also there was a lot of admiration for the Nazis. In fact, Iqbal was of great praise to the Nazis. And in fact, the Muslim League leaders went to Germany to see the Nazi leaders. This also happened. And so, in the whole subcontinent, including Bharat, Pakistan, Everywhere there is a praise to it. Now, as far as the current geopolitics is concerned, the Arab world is surely changing its stance, as in, at least in the optics, it's very clear that they are now subscribing to these ideas. This is driven by a lot of geopolitics. But when we talk to Arab is not just Saudi Arabia. For many people, Arab means Saudi Arabia. But say when you go to Iraq, when you go to Iran, the supporters of the Khomeini are very much in the praise of the Hitler too. Though Khomeini will keep posting that the Israeli regime is of a Nazis, but his own words in the past have reaped the praise to the Hitler, and he is not a very new person. He's not very old person in terms of he's relatively new. So he has been praising Hitler. We have found the praise to Hitler in Turkey quite often. It happens. It's in Palestine. It very much exists, and we saw the Nazi symbol
Oh yeah, we
being
see that in America, sir.
yes. Oh, yes. We see in America. So we see in the European nations. It's where as well. So this is not something which the Islamic world has negated or is not accepting it. It's the negation from the non-Islamic side which comes more because we tend to believe that everyone eats the food the same way as we eat. I'm just using as a metaphor. I mean to say that
Yeah.
the same lifestyle what we live is what whole when Europe is going gaga around inviting more and more Islamic world, it's because they think that the lifestyle what they live, this is like LGBTQ plus whatnot for the Palestine, then they are to be thrown from the terrace. This is what is their destiny, but they do it. Like whoever is selling right now to carry the food to the Palestine, to the Gaza, do they know that what the consequence they will meet, the kind of dressing they do, which is, whether it is going to be accepted by the Palestinians or not? People have forgotten that when the October 7 instance happened, weren't the Palestinians or rather the Gazans really cherishing it? We saw the footage is very much there. We saw the footage of the children they were also celebrating. They were, rather they maybe have been made to celebrate because this was a great thing which happened. And seldom I will forget, but Yasser Arafat did say that the
Yeah.
Palestinian wombs are the biggest weapon. He said it. So the Islamic world, literally, when it comes to acquiring something, they're very clear that the concept of the Fidain and the concept of Islamofascism very much exist. And once a scholar had said in a podcast that once anything which has total solution for your life is totalitarian. So that's how we drew the parallel between the Islamic world and the fascist regime, etc. Because it's giving a total solution for everything: how you eat, what you wear, or what you dress, whom you talk to, how you marry, everything. So the lifestyle which is controlled or governed by a system is a totalitarian system. So there's a very but natural alliance which comes with the Islam and the Nazism and the Fascism, and Muslim Brotherhood drew the inspiration from it. And Hamas is nothing but offshoot of Muslim Brotherhood. It was the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. So the continuation is very much there. It never ceased to exist.
That is true. That one can see very clearly, sir. You know, in the you were talking about the Mein Kampf, and it's mentioned in this book. There's a reference to it in the book as well. But I know for a fact that passages critical of Arabs were removed from the translations, which were
Yes.
found in Egypt, Morocco, Iran, Lebanon, Iraq, and all these areas. And you basically argue that they were censored to downplay criticisms of the Arabs, right?
Yes.
And uh, can you tell me, because that's something that you don't mention, so can you tell me what in particular was omitted or altered?
Yes. So that I have not touched upon, but see, so a lot of things had happened, and I'll just give a bit of glance of the geopolitics back then. What was happening? Now, suddenly Iran got a new name. Iran. The name was transformed.
Persia,
And
yeah.
yes, this all was happening because, according to Hitler initially, anybody who is not German, non European, is non Aryan. And the Jews were not seen as somebody who belonged to the land, they are non Aryan people. According to him, all the Semitic people, as in the Arabs, everybody was non-Aryan, and so the laws which were against, they applied to them as well. It was and in the main camp, he talks about the Islamic world, and he very clearly says that Islamic world is also some the people, not the pure blood, because the purity of the blood is something which he's always talking about. So
Mm,
a lot of polemics against the Muslim world is there, because the moment you talk about the blood, it's a very outright polemic, and he's spoken about it. They're the people of disturbance, etc. All those things. So, like what you'd expect any, say, evangelist to speak about the Islam, those all things were coming in the main camp. It was very much there. It was very much uh, imprint of evangelic thought process against the Islam, which came out there. But they were expunged very categorically, because
mm,
everyone evolves, and I'm sure that not only he was trying to appease, but Hitler had really got a very true admiration from the faith of Islam, and that's the reason why the offices were being called anti-Jewish, not
mm,
anti-Semitic. And there's a very interesting point here, because when Iran and Israel were in a short battle few months ago, so that's when Indian faction was also very divided, right? A lot of people were pro Iran, a lot of people were pro Israel, because the age of social media, anybody can become pro anybody, because everybody is. So, but truth being told, change of regime in Iran wouldn't have affected Hindustan much. It's just that Israel happens to be like a good ally to us, so we tend to have more inclination or whatever. Because even the past, the regime of Iran, the Shah's regime was very pro-Pakistan. It was never pro-Hindustan at all. It was not at all in this, because they were the proxy. They were almost like a proxy of America. Now, before the founder of the Pahlavi dynasty, he was pro-Nazis, and because he was pro-Nazis, he did a lot of anti-Jewish programs and all. There were two programs which he carried out, and he was literally facing a lot of brunt from the liberal Western world. That's when he thought that I need to change my size. And later on, when the replacement of him came, he became absolute puppet of America, because the case became almost like that of Japan. So they became absolute puppet. And then that's when, before that, the Pahlavis were trying to appease Hitler, that we are the Aryans. Our actual name is not Persia. Our actual name is Iran. We are the Aryans. So that's where the name change comes into the picture. So these all politics were going on, that we hum bhi Aryan. We all are Aryans. So Hitler went on to further say that, of course, Iran is Aryan. He said that Grand Mufti is Aryans ke bhi Aryans. He is the biggest of the Aryan, and a lot of things happened. So they were exactly opposite of what he's written in the main camp.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but I find
Yes,
this to be, I,
but these all
it's,
things happened.
yeah, but I find this to be highly kind of, you know, ridiculous.
It looks like a
Uh,
very school talk, like
yeah,
two
worse,
schoolmates
worse,
talking. And
worse, sir, worse. Now, coming towards the end, I want to ask you, you've written this. There's going to be a lot of criticism coming your way with regards to people are going to say historical inaccuracies and bias and pro-Israel bent and this and that and all that stuff. That's all there. That's all part of the game. But which one? I'm sure when you wrote the manuscript, somebody would have reached out to you and said, "कि यार ये ठीक नहीं है जो लिख रहे हो. This is not correct. This is inaccurate." I mean, is there any counter evidence that you kind of, after you finish the manuscript, is there any counter evidence that you consider?
so one was definitely the part which I had to rewrite, which was about the Grand Mufti being behind the Holocaust, because while I was making the MS read by a lot of people, so different people had different opinion, some very educated people, and it all came from a very as well wishers, not somebody who they were
Yeah, I
just
mean, I'm
yes,
just asking because
yes.
when you see counter evidence and that oh shit moment comes. It
Yes,
comes to
yes,
everybody. Oh shit, I didn't see
yes,
this.
yes,
So what was
yes.
your
So this
oh,
was one of them, and that's when I had to triangulate, and then I began to look at the circumstantial evidences. So now also when I say that Grand Mufti was also behind the Holocaust, so it's a circumstantial evidences which make you believe that he was behind it, because he was never tried in the as a war criminal. So if he has not been tried, so things did not even open up. So whatever exists is just the hearsay. That, okay, he is saying that he was meeting Eichmann, he was aware of it. Then you see that he sent the people to the Poland instead of them being brought to the Palestine. So it means that he was literally planning them to be slaughtered or killed or whatsoever. Now, again, the other thing which really was bothering me was about, as per the opinion the people was concerned, there's a lot of school of thought which says that the Jews were having a very good life under the Muslim rule. Under the Christian rule, their life was bad. And then, when the Islamic rule began to exist, especially under the Ottoman rule of Saladin, they were living a very good life. So, initially, I wrote hardly 4 pages around it. That okay, but when I faced the criticism, when I say criticism, it's critical appraisal rather of my work
mm,
when it came to me.
mm,
So I expanded it to around 30 pages when I'm talking about the Ottomans and what exactly was happening, because then I began to dig more into the medieval era text, that what exactly was happening. And they were leaving a lot of, and in fact, that criticism led me get even more evidence for my claim. People were giving the counter to my the words or whatever I wrote, but rather it gave me more fodder to find more and more. And now I further got more convinced that the life of the Jews were pathetic under the Muslim. It was no better. It was they had to pay the jizya, and process of paying jizya was also very humiliating. It was a uh, very terrible way, way you pay the jizya, and then apart from that, you can't build your synagogues. As in, you have complete. Imagine that in Hindustan, suddenly it said that you can't build the temples. So Jews were said that you can't build the temple. So what we were facing in the root of the Mughals is exactly what was happening with them in the Timurid rule. So like people come up with the point that it was all Ganga Jamuni Tehjeeb and biryani parade mein baate ja rahe the and whatnot. So that's exactly what comes about the Jews too, that they were having the golden era, but this is far from the reality. So these were the two cases, and of course, a lot of point came which is about there's some appendix about Islamofascism, etc. So a lot of people do a Wikipedia research also at times, and they because that's often it happens that once you will always Google and then you will find that this is what it's saying. So what has happened that in last 3 years, a lot of things in Wikipedia has changed a lot. So say that I'm talking in Islamofascism about Muslim Brotherhood's connection with the Nazism. So you will find that part to be erased in, if even if it existed, I think 6 years ago, but now it has been removed. Somebody edited it out. So the people who are looking at it, who are reviewing my work, they thought that either exists kar hi nahi raha hai, so there is. So then I had to give them the exact sources. So these things happen, and I am sure such subject do need such scrutiny. It only makes the manuscripts better.
mm. That's true, sir. Absolutely. Last question, sir. When you read through archives, this happens to me a lot when I'm going through, data to kind of do research for various different of my shows. I end up saying, "यार, इस पे भी show बन सकता है. I can make a show on this also. I can do this also. I can do that also." So I, keep preparing little things and keeping on the side. What's up with you, sir? What are you going to do next?
Oh, next, see, there's one series which is continuing for sure. That is about the Mughals, which is,
Yeah. No,
I
on
think
this,
that,
that's a different subject. But on
oh,
on
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 this, yes.
on
So,
this kind of
yes. So,
subjects which are not
yes,
spoken about that much.
yes. So, I am going to do one book on the history of terrorism itself, where I want to touch upon exactly what happened after this book ends, where I want to touch upon the things that, again, not many people, at least the people of now, will not know that Al Qaeda was a very much of a had a contribution from the Americas also. They also, like another white foolish people, they got played at the hands of the Islamists when they were creating the Mujahids against the Russians. So the USSR. So such anecdotes need to be brought in front of the people that how exactly this terrorism began after World War and
Mm.
how this Muslim Brotherhood from Islamofascism took the shape as it is. I still believe that the legacy of Hitler is very important when we look at the Islamic terrorism because he gave the sophistication to these medieval era type of warfare, etc. He gave the sophistication to them, and that changed the whole discourse when they came all as a band. Like today, they are talking RSS being inspired, but kuch nahi tha wahan pe. But the inspiration what Muslim Brotherhood took was crazy, and exactly how the like you know you for example if you look at army of Babur, okay, it's good given that they have got the ammunition etc because they have brought things from Turkey. It's a bit sophisticated, but imagine now Babur's army has got the regiments, it has got the hierarchies, it has
Firepower
got
and yeah,
yes.
technology and
Yes, so it really changes the whole dynamics. So that is exactly what Hitler did to the the Muslim Brotherhood or the Islamist fraction. And I want to begin on that and end till the say 2011. I want to go till there and see the history of terrorism or Islamofascism that way.
hmm, interesting. And I think that is going to be a good this thing. Thank you, sir, for the effort. This is a beautiful book, I must say. It was a good read. I love the Second World War history. That's I've been a buff of this particular region for a long time. Even today, events in the Middle East and East Europe kind of um, you know interest me a lot. So this was a good addition to my my understanding of the region. Thank you so much for the book and for the opportunity to actually pick your brains on it. It's a I hope my questions and my understanding of it was up to what you expected out of this. So thank you so much.
It was all my pleasure. In fact, I thoroughly enjoyed conversing with you because, again, as you said that you're World War II buff, so a lot which came from you, well, I'm sure that it was very clear. At times, you get the questions which are not very much from the context because not to blame the people, but not everybody reads the subject as a particular expert reads. So it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really a pleasure talking to
Thank
you
you so
about
much, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.